I chose to do the security capstone. Got to build our own project and had to keep in mind the other perspective of protecting against other people that want to attack. So it was very interesting and challenging to kind of consider things that you don't usually think about, things that don't go right. How do you protect yourself against it?
It was sort of a road of disappointment, like looking for vulnerabilities. So you guys use NORM, for example, to handle pretty much all your object relational stuff. So that addresses SQL injection issues, for example. That addresses a lot of the validation issues on type checking, for example, including nulls, including empty strings. So that was disappointing. That being said, we did find that there was no validation on length of user input fields. This could be used, for example, to inject like a gigabyte long email.
We were able to track packets that included username and password as plain text. So basically anyone listening on the network can detect those.
So one of the big issues we had was finding a proper encryption scheme because they can be notoriously hard to get right, and if you get them wrong, there can be subtle attacks. And so we actually had one of those in our project, but we were able to figure out ways around it with help of the instructors.
One of our main challenges was to integrate the three parts of the project, a database, and then web, and then the back end where we were tracking the traffic. Bringing all the pieces together and making them work together, I think, was the hardest part for us.
This project started with an article on Boing Boing about a open letter that a bunch of photographers and photojournalists had sent to various camera makers about the need for encryption on the cameras they use for their work. Some of the photo content might be sensitive, and if they were found with those photos, they could be subject to sanctions like detention. And so we want to hide the pictures that they've taken so that no one can look at them until the photographer is back in a safe place.
We decided to build the encryption on top of an open source camera app called Open Camera.
We can go into Open Camera's settings and go to where we have our encryption settings hidden down deep in a menu, and we'll change the encryption key. Now we can go back to the main app. Does anyone not want me to take their picture?
Show you what I'm running. Tells me where it's sending it and what the new name is.
And you can see it's retrieved the original file name from the encrypted blob and replaced it.
You can see the really blurry picture.
Yeah, it's got a good camera on it.
So Leo is an iOS messaging app. You may have an existing app on your phone to send messages, but it has the express goal of letting you essentially have privacy, and it wants to protect your data and as well your metadata.
And by metadata, we really mean two different things. The first is that a pair of users who are talking. So no single entity should know that I'm talking to Justin. The other piece of metadata that we typically think about is when I send a message to Justin.
We got some very useful feedback. The first thing we realized is that, if you don't have our server running on HTTPS, we are very susceptible to man-in-the-middle attacks. We believe that HTTPS should solve all these things. Another thing we also did is miss a few sanitization bugs, so we managed to find all those little bugs, and again, peer analysis identify those. And finally, we had an issue where we hard-coded the public key within the application, and we decided to fix that, and so now we added an endpoint to our registration service.
So we're going to show you what we built.
Somebody want to sign up and use our application and message us?
Now he's supposedly connected, so he's going to try sending a message, and now you can see on this side that we've received one, and it says, hey. I can type back a response, hello, and then you'll get it over there.
Having it all come together and actually work was both surprising and very gratifying.